Kyle Thiermann here. I'm in Cape Town.
I was the only journalist in northern Nigeria.
Not an adventure until you get lost in Tijuana.
If you get caught inside by a giant wave, you feel really alone.
I love the adventure of waking up and not knowing what will happen and that being my job.
Kyle Thiermann Show!
That was pretty good.
So when did you first get into writing?
When did I get first into writing? I think I did it like legit, in print in high school. There was a high school newspaper, the high school I went to. I'm trying to remember, I cannot remember what the exact first thing was, but I honestly, it was about surfing. It was some surf related stuff. Luckily the teacher running it just really wanted some inches, just wanted a column, and I was like, sure, I'll write about surfing. And I honestly couldn't tell you what it was about. I think it was like some local contest results, like a movie. I really like new movies that had come out, so that would have been 2013, 2014, I think, right when that happened. And I mean, if you found it, I don't have the magazines. It's probably bad. It's probably not good writing, but yeah, that was the first thing. I just I grew up on surf magazines and would just read them in bed all the time and burning the proverbial midnight oil. And so I just kind of wanted to replicate that however I saw it. And luckily there was a medium in high school for that.
And did you, at that age, think, I want to be a professional writer?
It didn't quite click then. That it was just something fun to do. I think when I went to college, I was trying to do marine biology / journalism double major. and it took one term of freshman year to realize that just wasn't going to happen. The workload was just going to be way too much. Specifically, I just couldn't handle the marine biology side of it.
This was in Oregon?
This was at Oregon, yeah. I'm not exactly sure why I went to marine biology. I think I was taking a class in high school at the time. And I am interested in marine biology, but I just, the coursework wasn't for me. And so I had a lot of friends who were in the journalism school at the time, and I was a freshman, and I figured, maybe there's something here. At Oregon, Oregon is a big sports school, big D1 programs, football, basketball, track and field. And there was opportunity to cover those sports for the paper and for other school outlets. And I thought, okay, maybe there's something I can do here. So I would say it clicked that I could do some sort of writing not until later in college.
So what was it like writing about sports that I assume you didn't do all of?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I would say I had a pretty good grasp of track and field and cross country, which is huge at Oregon. Like both track and cross country, Oregon is like a top tier program for that. And having done that in high school and with the club at Oregon, I felt like I had a pretty good grasp of that. And I've watched basketball all my life, so I did have to learn to kind of cover that, like actually going to the events and talking to the coaches, talking to the players. Like that takes, you just have to have some experience doing that. Like it is a little bit intimidating walking up to the quarterback of the football team and sticking a microphone in their face and asking some questions. And really you just kind of learn by observing others. Like there were other professional reporters. I was reporting for an independent newspaper that it was part of the school, but independent. So, there were other, fully fledged journalists covering that, and so I just kind of watched and learned from them.
I heard there's a great story that the writer Michael Lewis told. You know who Michael Lewis is? Yeah, Moneyball, exactly, about how Moneyball became a book idea. So he is watching a game of the Oakland A's, and he has the thought, how pissed is I might get this wrong, but like how pissed is the left fielder at the right fielder when he drops the ball, because the right fielder is getting paid 4 times as much as the left fielder. So he has a background in economics on Wall Street, so he starts to look at the game through the game of money. And then he goes in, he's like, oh, well, maybe there's a magazine piece. So he starts talking to Billy Beane, I believe who was the general manager at the time, and starts to ask him how he's thinking about players in terms of them as assets that he's allocating. When there's such wealth disparity between a team like the Oakland A's and a team like the Yankees. And then he said, well, that's interesting. Okay, I'll turn it into a book idea, or I'll turn it into a magazine idea. And the moment that he turned it into a book idea was when he saw the players naked taking a shower. And he goes to one of the coaches and goes, the bodies of your athletes are really bad. To be honest, like these guys do not look like professional athletes. And the coach says, yeah, that's kind of the point. Like, we find value where other teams miss value.
Wow.
And this is in a sport that is one of the most, from a number standpoint, tracked sport, of all time. Every hit, every out, all these stats are seemingly so well documented. But even within that, a team like the Oakland A's is able to mop up. It's really interesting. And then he said, okay, well, that's a book idea now, because this isn't just a story about sports. It's a story about how humans misvalue resources.
He saw the bodies in the shower and was like, oh, book idea.
Big book idea right here.
Michael Lewis must have come for a different time to get access to that, because I don't think many modern journalists have that kind of access.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Wow. I did not know that.
Do you, so did you find when you were doing those stories in college that you started to perceive the world through stories and quotes?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, a bit. You definitely kind of find yourself rooting for the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be the best story? I want that outcome. My roommates sometimes accuse me of wanting that for like a WCT contest.
Sure.
I'll root for I do have my favorite surfers, but I want to write about an interesting narrative. Yeah, for sure. I'm struggling to think of like a concrete example at the moment, but yeah, like one of the best things I did at Oregon was a track and field reporting class. So it's entirely focused on track meets at Hayward Field, which it's one of the biggest track and field stadiums in the world, and it was already great at the time when I was there, but they've redid it. It looks like picture an alien spaceship landing on a university campus, and that's what it looks like. Yeah. It's massive. And so I got a lot of experience like writing in the stadium, like talking to athletes there and like crafting a story, like, okay, what's the conflict and resolution arc here in the race? You did kind of have to think about that even before the race. Like, what are you going to follow, or who are you going to follow? When is the deciding moment in the race? And that's something I think I've been able to translate into the surfing arc.
I do think about this question beyond just the reporting, because I think that whatever career you choose, you start to see the world through that lens. Mm-hmm. Like lawyers start to see the world through the lens of risk. And you talk to a lawyer, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you could get sued for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you should. That there'd be a big claim on that." Photographers start to see the world through photography. Comedians start to see the world through bits, and I think journalists start to see the world through quotes and.
What's the lead?
What's the lead? Yeah, what's the conflict? Who are the characters?
I always think like, oh yeah, if I see something like a sentence or a fact, I'm like, oh, that could be a lead.
What is a lead for people who don't know?
A lead is it's the start of an article of a story. It's like the way that the reader. It's the first thing the reader sees when they come to a story. Like, and sometimes it can include what you would call the nut graph, like the most important, what the story is about. It summarizes what the story is about. Some leads can be paragraphs long. It's like a story in itself. Other leads are super short and brief, and then they kind of transition into that graph. So a lead is kind of considered one of the most important things you can do in a story.
What are you trying to accomplish in a good lead?
I think you're trying to get in someone's head, to be honest. You're trying to like make a lasting impression and get them to keep reading. What you're trying to make them interested in the story is really the goal, so they keep reading your story. One of the things you were talking about and the way you see the world made me think of this. I was going to bring this up later, but Sam McIntosh, the owner of Stab magazine, he said this thing when I was doing some freelance work for them, and it's a thing I kind of repeat to myself every once in a while. He says, fact over froth. So I think about that, like you talk about the way you want to see the world, and I'm thinking, if I'm writing a story, how do I present the fact over the froth? And that's like a constant, not a battle or struggle. That's a bit dramatic, but it's easy to overfroth on surfing all the time. I do it all the time in the water. I'll be watching a video. So I'm like, how do I think of this in a way that presents fact over froth? And I'm not just, spouting off hyperbole.
Why do you think that matters?
I think the way Sam presented it, and I agree with it, is you're trying to bring value and insight to the reader, like information, like original information, and that's kind of hard, in my opinion. That's hard to do. So there's, you go on Instagram today. I'm not hating on social media. Like, social media has its place. It has its tools for sure, but you go on there and it's all hype and it's all hyperbole.
Yeah,
some do it better than others. And I think being original in your writing and the angle you're presenting does bring value to readers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that it also requires you to exist in the outside world. I think that, and I'm very guilty of this, my friend Adam Skolnick, who is a wonderful writer. He ghostwrote David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. He writes for the New York Times. And he says one way that you can always tell a younger writer is they write about themselves too much. And what you start to realize as you continue on your journey is that the world is more interesting than you. Or you start to at least get bored with yourself, right? You're like, okay, I've kind of strip-mined this.
Sure.
Let's go out into the world now.
Maybe it's young writers do it, and then like older writers, they don't care anymore. They're like, whatever.
Fuck it. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Memoir. Yeah, but I think it requires existing in the outside world to find original fact. Not something that someone else has just already put up there, but to find a fact that forced you to go to the place and see the thing and then report on it. I think that's a really good way to be thinking about it. Are there any other lessons that Sam McIntosh taught you? Or other writing mentors that have stuck with you in terms of the way that you see storytelling?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. There's a couple influences for sure. I'll just name them off, and then we can go into them. But Bruce Jenkins, for sure, who you know. Marcus Thompson II. I got to give a shout out to him. He doesn't know me, but he's a writer for The Athletic, as a sports news website, and he covers the Golden State Warriors. He's kind of a Bay Area columnist. And Stephen King. I don't know if you've read many Stephen King books.
Surf journalist. Never really made it very far. He was a local guy, had a blog. Probably wouldn't have heard of him.
Grumpy local
Stephen King.
Have you read On Writing?
I have.
Okay, yeah. So that's been recommended to me. That got recommended to me multiple times before I actually read it, and I was like, "Wow, I think every writer should read this. It's incredible." It gave me a lot of like confidence, like to believe in your own writing, like how to kind of just structure things better and be more assertive. I mean, I love Stephen King's writing. Not even so much for the horror aspect. Like, I don't read horror or scary books, but except for his, because I just love how kind of brutally direct his writing is.
Yeah.
That's something I want to like emulate. I mean, every like young creative wants to emulate their mentors. So he definitely, I love his stuff. And then, so Bruce, oh man, where to begin with Bruce? He's a neighbor.
Before we get into that, I think that directness in writing is, for me, what creates a fucking lot of joy in the act of it, because I so often feel not very confident in what I'm saying, which is kind of funny for a dude who has a podcast, but I so often will say something and then I'll think, I shouldn't have said that. Or do I even believe that? Or like, wait, I wish I would have thought that through more before I could actually say it.
Sure.
So one of the few times in my life that I actually feel confident in the words that I'm saying fully are when I put it down on paper. And like, I'm like, fuck yeah, did it. That felt good. And I didn't hear that from Stephen King, but I heard that from, I think it was an interview with Ernest Hemingway where he said you should be declarative. You shouldn't be like asking questions or is this it? Just say it like you believe it, and it'll be more fun for you, and it'll imbue more confidence to your writing.
Yeah, Stephen King's what would you call it? His diction, I suppose. His word choice is just never seems to be an issue.
Yeah,
he always has some great way to explain some brutal event.
Bruce Jenkins.
Yeah, Bruce. He. So I've known Bruce for many years. He's a neighbor of where I grew up in Montera. His daughter and my daughter became good friends in elementary school, preschool.
In Half Moon Bay.
Yeah, in that area. And Bruce, if no one knows him, he's written for the San Francisco Chronicle for 50 years. He's retired now, but he does a weekly column, and I believe it's now in excess. He's been getting a paycheck from them for over 50 years, which is just insane. He started in like the 70s, I believe, covering the A's, the baseball team. And he's the nicest guy. He's just so easy to hang with and have a chat with. We've watched so many sporting events at his house, and just a great guy to hang with. And so another thing about Bruce, he's not just a sports writer. He's like an avid body surfer, and used to work for Surfer Mag with Steve Hawk, who you know as well. And Bruce has like such a big passion for the ocean, which I don't think a lot of readers of the San Francisco Chronicle know. Now they might, because he's doing more weekly columns about oceans and Mavericks and surfing. Like he wrote an obituary for Clyde Cow recently. So that's kind of cool. He's gotten that like angle down at the Chronicle. But yeah, I've been really lucky to spend time with Bruce and my family and his family on the North Shore of Oahu. I mean, that's a whole chapter in itself. But he literally wrote a book on the North Shore called North Shore Chronicles. I don't know if you ever read that one.
No.
It's kind of a series of profiles. I think it came out in like the early 90s. So he talked with like some of the who's who of the North Shore on the day. Like I think he talks to Mark Fu, Mark Cunningham, Ken Bradshaw, and others who I'm blanking on.
Yeah,
but it's a great book.
He's a top-notch journalist. I did the eulogy for Pat Curran when he passed away on Surfline, and there was not much written on him except for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is this deep story that Bruce Jenkins did on Pat Curran after he moved down to Mexico for years and kind of disappeared. Yeah. Bruce goes down there and visits him. It's, in my opinion, one of the better stories ever done in surfing. I believe it was for Surfer Magazine.
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, I've never met Bruce, but I owe him a thank you for that story.
Yeah. And what was his trick? He not a trick, but bring a six-pack down goes a good way with a guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, where's my six-pack, bro? I guess you're the guest. I only gave you a beer. And what did he teach you about writing? Did you get any lessons from him?
It was never like overt with Bruce. It wasn't. It was never like, here's my lessons and I'm a teacher, you are the student. It was never really like that. Bruce is like a pretty humble guy. He's never like you were talking about earlier. He's never the center of the story. He always seems to treat his subjects with a lot of respect, I would say. That's kind of a hallmark of Bruce. Like, he's written so much about the Warriors and Steph Curry, and he really seems to encapsulate what those guys are all about, which I think is a really special thing. And also his historical knowledge of the sport is probably unparalleled at the Chronicle level for sure. So that's something I've kind of thought about, like, as a way to separate myself as a journalist. I want to be able to like remember facts and information and all that kind of stuff. So like I'm like a total nerd for surf facts and world titles and event wins and pro surfing and stuff like that.
Have you written an article that you were afraid to publish?
That's a good one, man. You're good at this. Yeah, I think it was one of the first ones I did. I don't know if you came across this at any point, but it was for Surfline. I just graduated college, I think it was like 2019.
Yeah.
And I was kind of looking to do some more legit surf writing, not just for like a blog, but like an actual legitimate publication. And it was about the young group of Maverick surfers from Half Moon Bay. So Luca, Padua, Hunter Murison, the Lungard brothers, Anna Bloomer, Thomas Agramonte. And I was nervous because I knew those guys.
Sure.
And it's a bit of an informal role. You don't really write about people you know. But I really felt like there was a story there because I wasn't super tight friends with them, so it felt okay to write it. But anyway, those guys were there's never really been like a core group of multiple guys from Half Moon Bay surfing Mavericks regularly until them.
Yeah, it was all like Santa Cruz guys as far as like a posse before them.
And there was Pacifica.
Pacific. Yep. Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting that like there was never, I mean, there was always, not saying that there haven't been amazing surfers coming out of Half Moon Bay for a very long time, but I agree with you.
Shout out Tim West.
It is, yes, fucking Tim West, core lord. Tim West. But there hasn't really been a crew of young surfers that are really doing it.
Yeah, so I was really nervous to do that because it was my like first foray into surf journalism and getting my name on a big platform like that. And the story was a bit intense too. There was a guy, Malcolm Fikes, a good friend of ours up there, who passed away tragically about a year before that. And there was some, like, I don't know what word you would call it, but like they felt that. They really felt that. It was sad. It was a real heavy moment for the Half Moon Bay community. And I do think there was some like channeling of that energy into surfing one of the heaviest waves in the world. So I'm grateful that I got to tell that in a small way, and they were able to express how they were feeling. And it was just cool to give a little shine to Half Moon Bay surfers doing some like real damn impressive surfing up there. And yeah, those guys put it on. So when that first came out on Surfline, I saw the link and I was like, oh my God, this really happened. I can't believe it.
What was the fear?
Well, it was all new to me. I didn't know how it would be perceived.
Right.
Like, it's one of the things you can write in your own corner for a bit and you're like, but is it any good? How will people perceive it? So yeah, I knew it was gonna be outward, public facing, getting clicks and views. It's on Surfline. So I was just afraid of the initial perception.
And what's it been like? I mean, I can totally understand that surfing is it's not a singular community. It's a bunch of small communities that are very insulated, and it's very distinct in-group, out-group from city to city all over the world. And like, you're not afraid of what the reader from halfway around the world thinks of you. You're afraid of what the kid you grew up with thinks of you, and
the girl next door,
and the guy you have drinks with at the bar, and to share something that is true about your community.
Yeah.
I think is a really frightening thing to do for writers.
Yeah, it was so close to home.
It's so close to home, and it doesn't matter really what sport you're in. But I remember reading Bird by Bird by Anne Lamont. She's a really great writer. She's written a number of bestsellers, but her dad was a journalist in Marin, and he wrote about the Marin community in the 1970s. It was a very negative article, but just very honest. And she said that she was afraid as a young girl, just that her dad had written this. And then she was walking one day with her dad, and one of the parents came up to the dad and thanked him for doing it because it was so honest. I think that there's something about if it's, as long as it's true, there might be a sting at the beginning, but ultimately it's a service. The thing you don't want is for people to say that's factually inaccurate.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it takes some guts to look in a mirror, or I wasn't I don't think I was exposing anything, but it was just it was a heavy story,
right?
And one I didn't think had been told yet, so it was a whole new thing.
So growing up in Half Moon Bay, you were there for one of the greatest surf contests ever, the 2010 Mavericks contest, where still to this day, some of the biggest waves ever surfed. And that really was a day that kicked off innovation in the inflation vest. The day after, that was when Shane Dorian almost drowned, and that kicked off that. And during that day, a lot of the guys that caught the biggest waves didn't end up making the final because they would just get so smoked. You couldn't actually paddle back out because you just get
go the rocks.
Yeah, just drug under a few football fields and being like, okay, I don't think I can go do that again. But you were present for that day.
Yeah, in hindsight, it sounds like a terrible idea, but in the moment, it was great. No, so me and my dad kayaked out there, so that's the lead. But some background. No one, don't try this at home, kids. Don't do this. But my dad is an expert kayaker, been doing it most of his life, and has been kayaking around Pillar Point and the Half Moon Bay area for a long, long time. Does downwinds in Hawaii, legit, really good kayaker. And for some reason, we thought that that day, he's like, hey, the Mavericks contest is going off. It's been a while. Why don't we go check this out? This will be fun for you to see. And I was getting into surfing at the time. 2010. So I think I would have been in 7th grade. So how old is that? 12, 13? Yeah. So, we were a little nervous, but I trusted my dad wholeheartedly. I was not worried we were going to flip at all, which in hindsight was a little naive because that day was enormous. And I knew we might bring this up. So I did the Surfline historical buoy forecast, and I think I got the right day, mid-February. And it was I think it was 14 feet at 17 seconds west. Damn solid.
Damn solid.
Yeah.
So you guys were out in one kayak?
Yeah, one
a single double kayak. And did you launch from the beach?
No, we launched in the harbor. My dad was working at he was running a kayak company there.
Okay.
And so we launched from inside the harbor and then went straight out. What would that be? Southeast, around Blackhand Reef for a while, well over a mile. And this is my first time to Mavericks. I have never been out in the water before at all, so I think nothing of it.
Yeah,
I don't know any better.
Yeah, and we're safe. Dad seems calm.
Yeah, and then my dad was telling me later, he's like, "Wow, I was not freaking out, but this is serious. This is legit." And I'm 12, 13 years old. I can barely paddle the thing.
Jesus,
and so we actually get there. To my recollection, no hiccups, big swells, going up and down over big swells, but no, nothing's capping over us, no whitewater like that. And so we finally get around one of the buoys and give it a wide berth. And one of my lasting memories from this day, almost as much as the waves itself, was the Coast Guard boat. There was one of those, massive Coast Guard boats, was just chilling out there, and they were grilling hamburgers on a barbecue on the deck.
Watching the comp.
Yeah, we were like, hey, can we one of those? They didn't give it to us. But
that's radical.
Yeah, I remember that very well. And yeah, so rolling up to the lineup, it's just like, a buzz of activity, jet skis and boats, and then the boats doing like the big circle thing.
Sure.
All the tourists watching around, and we kind of could like sneak in a little bit because we're smaller kayak. And yeah, and to be honest, I wish I could say I remembered like everything that was going down that day, but it was so long ago and I was so young, I don't think I really appreciated it. But yeah, it was enormous, and like an exceptional Mavericks day. It was not your typical Mavericks day. It was just so big.
It's historical. Yeah, I mean, that was some of the biggest waves paddled ever on that day.
Yeah, it. Looking back at some of the footage, it's just not nice. It's not nice.
I think that was day 2. I hope I'm remembering this. I was talking to Russell Smith, who's a Santa Cruz pro surfer, and he said he was doing some safety, I believe, on that day, and he picked up Zach Wormhout, who was in the contest, on the ski, and Zach just goes and just coughs up blood all over him after it, and it was like, holy shit, dude, because your the alveoli in your lungs will rupture if you just go down fast enough. Ooh. And it's like a fairly common thing of just like coughing up blood.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
So what's it been like growing up in Half Moon Bay? I feel that it could be a little like growing up on the side of Yellowstone or something. There's like Mavericks is such a tourist attraction. Mm-hmm. Like Mavericks is everywhere in Half Moon Bay.
Yeah. So I used to work at Jeff Clark's surf shop.
Yeah.
And we would get just the craziest tourists you could imagine. Like they'd come in like June.
Sure.
And say, where's the Maverick?
Sure.
I'm like, whoa. This is
right up there.
Yeah. Go down this way, this path. And yeah, I think as a surfer, it's kind of interesting because Mavericks aside, the waves aren't that good all the time.
Right.
Really not. It's like average beach breaks that do get fun and good, but it's kind of, when you're young and like learning how to surf, it's
pretty hard.
Brutal.
Yeah. Not a lot of point breaks around.
No. That's why Santa Cruz is so alluring. But yeah, it kind of I would say it forced me, at least, and I think it applies to other people, like you're really looking for windows and constantly trying to find the best when the conditions will be most optimal. And this is something I think I apply now, maybe even too much so. Like I'm always kind of looking for, when's the tide gonna be just right with the least amount of people, or when is the swell gonna be peaking just a little bit where I can get a couple an hour or two in.
It's not an all day affair.
Yeah, well, but that's the problem. I'm constantly thinking about it all day.
Yeah,
I can't stop.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was kind of ingrained in me. Like, you got to kind of constantly be on and think about it. Whereas other places, it's more of a defined time and place for that.
Half Moon Bay is, for people who don't know, it's about an hour north of Santa Cruz. It's a completely different climate there. It's pretty wild.
Cold.
Just how much colder and foggier it is in that culture. How would you describe the surf culture there?
How would I describe this?
When compared to a place like Santa Cruz that's just an hour south?
I think it's pretty similar to Santa Cruz, but maybe on a smaller scale. Like, if there's a spot going off, everybody is there. Whereas like in Santa Cruz, if there's swell, it's kind of spread
out. Sure.
Along
so many waves.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's pretty tight knit, I would say. Some people are really interested in Mavericks. Others kind of couldn't care less and are just like, that's so outside of my realm, I don't even want to associate with it. But I will say, if you're ever in the Half Moon Bay area and you want to like get some Maverick history, check out the old Princeton Landing Bar, and go check out some of the boards. Look, but don't touch. I mean, they're on the ceiling. You can't touch them. But that place, I mean, talk about surf culture. That's like where that's the hub of it. Right
Sure,
now.
sure.
And it has been for a while. It used to be a pretty, I mean, this is before my time, but apparently it was a pretty sketchy, like, motorbike gang.
Totally.
And now Brian Overfeld has turned into, like,
a good surfer bar,
and the whole community place. Like, kids can hang out there for, events, and they've got concerts, and it's great. So I would say I hang out with a lot of surfers at OPL.
Yeah, a lot of big wave boards there. How did you get involved with Surfer Magazine? Was this when you dropped Bruce Jenkins and Taylor Paul's name? Is this the story?
No, but that was well beforehand, actually, at Oregon. I'll get to the surfer thing in a minute, but the Bruce and Taylor thing, I was interviewing for the student newspaper to cover sports at Oregon. Didn't know exactly what sports I'd be covering at the time. It kind of changes per term. But yeah, there was a full-on job application plus interview with like it was like 3 or 4 sports reporters and editors at once.
Wow.
And I was a bit intimidated. And they asked me at one point, like, what writers do you like? Who influences you? And I was like, well, there's these guys. One you may have heard of. The other you definitely haven't heard of. I was like, do you know Bruce Jenkins? And one guy was like, oh, I love Bruce Jenkins. He's great. Because he's a sports guy. He knew Bruce from sports. I think he was from the Bay Area as well.
Like Stephen King, grumpy local.
Yeah.
Half Moon Bay guy.
I know Stephen King. No. And then the other name, he's like, oh, who else do you like? And I was like, well, you don't know him, but this guy Taylor Paul, because I was really into Surfing Magazine at the time.
Sure.
I think maybe he might have left surfing, or it might have like just gone under. But I really enjoyed Taylor's writing, and sure enough, they didn't know who he was. But that was where
What did you like about Taylor's writing?
I just liked how
he was the editor at Surfing.
Yeah, he has a good way of, and we talked about inserting yourself in the story. Like I thought, especially at Mavericks, would do a great job of like setting the scene with him in the story. Like, I'm at Mavericks, I'm at Pipeline, I'm in Santa Cruz with Nat Young. That kind of gave the reader a sense of place and like purpose for it. Like, he did this thing for Stab a while ago during that crazy 2020-2021 run when Pete caught his wave, and then a few days later was the crazy double black diamond multiple football field day. And I think this story was like, here's like inside the lineup from like 4 weeks of nonstop Mavericks, something like that. And he kind of walked everyone through what the last month at Mavericks had been like. And so that was what I appreciated. It was like the insight of someone live and actually doing it on the scene. Like, he's actually surfing the thing and getting waves. He's not just like a bystander on the side. So that's something I appreciate and wanted to emulate. Yeah.
Do you insert yourself into stories, and how does that take place? Like, with your own, I mean, Taylor, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because he's a very good surfer at a place like Mavericks. He's one of those guys that is in kind of the higher level of people who are doing that. How have you inserted yourself into stories that you've done? Have you done like essays kind of about yourself, or do you stay more outside of it?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I typically am trying to stay outside of it right now. I feel like I want to develop more like rapport with people. And that, I think, honestly, that entails like surfing with this subject. So it sounds strange to think, but it, I'm trying to give more of like, neutral, yes, but like more of an outside observation and historical context. With time, I do want to be able to like have more anecdotes and like travelogues or travel stories, right? Like that's kind of built on narrative intrinsically. So yeah, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
Growing up, we had Trans World Surf, Surfing Magazine, Surfer Magazine, Surfer's Journal, Stab. And each one of those occupied a different space within surf culture, right? Trans World's more younger surfers, Chris Cote, cracking jokes. Surfing, I would say, was more like a lot of high performance, still young, but maybe a little bit more chic. I don't know.
Sure.
Surfer's Journal, high end, kind of a lot of reverence for history, a lot of stories that would just never be told, 50 years ago, that kind of thing. Today, it's Surfer's Journal and Stab, which is now, I mean, I don't know their whole model, but like primarily a video outlet now.
Yeah.
Surfer Magazine's coming back. What do you think the Surfer brand stands for?
Yeah, that's a good one. What do I think the Surfer brand stands for? I think we want to do both, and I think the metaphor would be like a big tent. Like, how can we get how do we support, appreciate, highlight all the different things surfing means to us. Like we got print mag coming out, which we can talk about in a bit, but I think Stab does a great job with like their video franchises, like Stab in the Dark, Electric Acid. Those are killer, and so we want to present our own angle with something like that, but in a different way. Maybe that's different. I don't know, different waves, different boards, just different places, even. Yeah, and obviously the journal is like incredible writing too. So like, how do we want to be that style as well. So, yeah, I mean, Surfer has like an incredibly rich and deep history too to draw from as well. So I think that might be a big thing where our strength lies as well. Like, we have this well of archives and covers and stories to draw from. So it's like I was saying earlier, like it's like a battle. Not a battle. That's too strong a word, but we want to like be able to balance like the joy of surfing with like the context and the stories and the narrative that comes with it. Yeah.
I before this interview, I was thinking about the Surfer brand. I do a lot of work in advertising. I'll write commercials for different companies, and I think a lot about like what is a brand? What does it mean? And one of the best examples of like what is a brand was written in this book about advertising called Hey Whipple, Squeeze This. It's a fucking hilarious and awesome book about like what is advertising. If you're ever getting into it, I mean, I think that everyone should read this book because advertising is just a form of persuasion and communication. But he said, if you erased the brand Coca-Cola, but you kept all its factories and you kept all the people, but you just erased the knowledge of that brand from public existence. Men in Black style, no one's ever heard of Coca-Cola. They could never get back to where they are now. But if you erased all the factories, all the people, all of the guts of Coca-Cola, but you kept that brand in the knowledge of people's brains, they could rebuild that in 10 years.
Interesting. Wow.
Right. So like brand is, it takes up mental real estate.
Yeah.
And depending on the decisions that we are making from inside that brand, that influences where you sit in people's minds, right? And I think that if you look at a brand like Quicksilver, right, that at one point was the coolest fucking surf brand in the world, right? They were original. They had the best surfers. Everyone wanted Quicksilver. Somewhere along the way, they got greedy. They started making it, in my opinion, bigger than it needed to be. They tried to just expand. Great. Now we're going to be in Sears. Now we're going to be in the Midwest.
Yeah.
The kids don't think we're cool anymore. Now, who thinks Quicksilver is cool? Who thinks Billabong's cool? Right? Because to me, when I see that, I see a brand that used to stand for something great and then tried to get too big. They over-levered, and that caused them to leak brand equity.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a long time for them to get back to that place, in my mind, given the decisions that they made, from the 2010s on.
Yeah.
When I think about Surfer, I don't think that even though the magazine went away, it lost brand equity. Right? Like, Surfer's cooler than ever to me. They just lost the magazine, given the digital space, right? Like, the Surfer never sold out. They just went away for a little while, right? But because of that, I think that it still inhabits this really powerful, nostalgic and pure place in the minds of surf culture. And because of that, I think that it has the potential to be a really powerful voice in the community. And it could go anywhere, right? It could go, it's the magazine, but it's from a branding standpoint, it can go into all these places because it never lost that space of respect in our brains.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Very eloquently put. It's funny. There's something, I don't know who coined the phrase. Someone out there maybe did, but like right now we have like salt in the building, I would say. Like, the content we're putting out is put up by surfers who grew up reading Surfer and surfing and other X. But yeah, like, who know the legacy, who know the history, and have like a respect for that. Sure. So yeah, right now like you said, we're excited. There's a lot of opportunity ahead. And like what you say too about the history and the culture of it. When I was putting together, I wrote a couple of things for the upcoming mag, but one thing that struck me when I was doing it, like I reached out to some notable figures in surfing, like Herbie Fletcher, Jeff Hackman, Debbie Beecham, who else? Mark Richards, Bob McTavish, Felipe Pomar, lesser known, but he's awesome. Great Peruvian surfer, 1965 world champ, and still surfing at 82 today.
Sick.
Amazing. I was reaching out to them, and they don't know me. They have no personal connection to me, but they know Surfer. Like, that is like a cultural institution, especially for them. They were like coming up with that.
Yep.
So I felt like there is some pressure, I think, to like kind of continue that like standard of like, accurately portraying their stories and, their lives and what they're saying. Like, that angle, or that story, the angle was about surfing longevity and how they did it and how they continue to do it. Like, whether that's through fitness, diet, it doesn't go into like super specifics, but it's kind of interesting stuff. And so, yeah, I felt like this not weight, that's a bit strong, but yeah, I wanted to do a damn good job because I know that like they respect Surfer a lot, and that's the only reason they're talking to me.
Yeah. And for people who read it, we need to orient ourselves through a sense of place in a culture in order to fully immerse ourselves in that culture. And that includes a sense of history and context around what is this thing really that we're all dedicating our lives to. And we love the act of surfing. That's one thing. But within that act, it's subsumed within years of history and events and stories. And the more enriched we become through knowledge around what this thing really is, who came before us, what's the top level now, who are the most interesting people doing this thing that we also love to do, it allows us to fully experience the thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that social media gives that to us. So, because right now it's with individual influencers who are as big as, and some of whom are as big as entire media outlets now.
Yeah, their own brand.
They're their own brand, right? Yeah. But they themselves can't imbue that full sense of culture and history because they're just one person.
Yeah,
and we get, it's like only consuming empty calories when we're consuming the culture of surf through social media.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole sense of like social media, democratized content, not just surf, but like all content really. Like there's no like, and there has been a sense of surf mags as gatekeepers in terms of who they wanted to promote and push. Where am I going with this? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it did democratize. Everyone can have a voice now, and some of those voices really matter. If Albee wants to go on a great rant about jet skis on a big Jaws day, he can do that, and it could reach as many people as a former magazine article
for sure
could. But what you don't get is the reporting, and what you don't get is that kind of deep thinking on how to present facts and narrative in a compelling and thoughtful way.
That's a great point.
Right.
Yeah. We got a bit sidetracked, but should I tell a story of how I got to Surfer Mag? It's funny. So after I graduated school, I worked for almost 5 years as I was a reporter for the Half a Bay Review newspaper. And I did everything from I was like community arts and sports beat, and then eventually started doing the city beat. I guess you could say that was everything from like city council to public safety. There's a lot of like harbor district news, stuff like that. Coast Guard. I mean, it was small paper, so you wear a lot of hats. So yeah, it got pretty in depth with local reporting for the hometown paper. But I did some freelancing for Stab on the side, and was really invested with them, and did a lot of fun stuff there. And then 2024, my boss at the Review left. He'd been there for 20 years, so it was time for him to step away. He wanted to. It was all good. But the next in line to like kind of handle everything was me, and that's when the board decided they would also stop the print publication. So it was a weekly paper since, I don't even know, maybe like early 1900s. It's a long time, weekly paper. And so I had been in this transition for like a month or two, getting our last couple print issues out while my boss left, and then handling the digital transition. It's a newsletters and web first and all that. So it was really a lot at once. And then, so I was the interim editor for a little bit, and then Surfer came knocking out of the blue, out of nowhere, saying, "Hey, we're hiring." And like, I swear to God, that day, the board that runs the Review, they offered me the full-time editor position. So I was like weighing this thing, like, do I take this job now with the Review that I've been with a while, like, more pay, more responsibility, or do I go do this thing that I've like kind of been aiming for a long time, that it might be less benefits, but like and maybe a little less certainty, but might be more, to me, honestly, it sounded more fun. Like, I just like, I think this is going to be more interesting for me, and is like going to be a path I want to pursue more. And the Review is great. Like, the Review taught me so much, and it was such a valuable experience, but it just, the timing just felt right to be able to transition. So
Surfer fucking magazine, dude. Can't pass that up.
But it was new. It was like coming back. So I didn't fully know what to expect with it.
What is, how often are new print Surfer issues going to be coming out now?
That's a good question. So they came out with one. This I didn't really work on it because I joined later, but that was like August last year, August 2024, and then we're gonna have one in June, this upcoming June. So right now it's an annual thing. I think there's room, depending on how sales go, that we could, maybe do it every 6 months. maybe it's every year. To be honest, it's kind of above my pay grade right now, but it depends on how well it does. And
is this a subscription model? Or will people be buying your annual issues?
It's not a subscription model yet. Maybe that will come. I think it certainly could.
Yeah.
But like right now, when the mag comes out, you can get it at your big name bookstores will have it. Your Barnes and Nobles,
cool.
Target can have it. You can buy it online through the site. Yeah. It was like here in the CVS and Safeway here in Santa Cruz. So check your local stores, folks, and even local surf shops might have it too.
Yeah. I'm putting my branding cap on, man. You guys could do so much. Yeah, because it's the name Surfer,
right?
Like you can do so much with that. I feel like there are, I worked at a company called Mudwater for a long time, and we did a newspaper. It was like mental health, psychedelics, adventure, but the funding mechanism for that was the product, and it's just it's interesting for me to think about like. These are all bad ideas, but like where something like Surfer could go beyond the magazine, right? Like you could go magazine, you could go like high-end art galleries. You're selling the best photos in surfing at art galleries that are Surfer branded for $5,000 a piece. You could do like
Ryan Craig would love that.
Dude, get Ryan on that. Like, but it's a really cool. I'm really excited about it, and I feel like that. It is a place that occupies a really important space in the global surf community's brain. And I think that there's a real yearning for good storytelling that imbues a sense of history and real reporting in it. And kind of a new sense of what this culture is, a unified story of what this culture is that I think a lot of kids growing up are really missing, man. Like growing up in Santa Cruz, like Kyle Boothman made the Get Rad films, and these were hour-long community kick-ass movies. And I don't think anyone's really done that since he was doing that. And that was in, last one he did, those were in 2013, 2014. And kids now growing up are like, dude, I loved watching the Get Rad movies. Dude, your part in the Get Rad movies was sick. Motley Crue. But it was this thing that they would watch again and again and gain culture from. And I think that magazines and physical artifacts, like getting people out into the world in one way or another, it goes deeper into people's brains. Yeah,
that's funny. Or not funny, but it's a great point. I think, Kalohe and Dino, he's doing this in his own way right now. Like with it was 2%. I think now it's Stecco, but he's all into the community and the Groms and San Clemente. He is. I'm curious to know how much money he's spent on marketing and all the sales and promoting the clothing line. Did you see the not stagnant ambition? What is it called? Stagnant Ambition? The Reckless Isolation.
Isolation. So good.
The film that came to the Rio, what was that? 2021 was so sick. It was just such a amazing event, to get everyone there, the shirts, the hats, and then the budget, the money he spent on that project to get them all to Indonesia in the height of the pandemic, and then make a film about it with all the production that goes with that, and then the film tour to go everywhere. That was just that was so awesome. So
go Kalohe.
There I think there is kind of a
take some of that Target money, give it back to San Clemente.
He's doing it, man.
It's fucking awesome. No, I'm a big fan of him. That's awesome. Have you been reporting this last contest on the Gold Coast?
I did, yes.
And what was the story that you wrote about it?
The story I wrote about it was, I feel like the name that came up the most for me was Julian Wilson. Yeah, big comeback for him. He stepped away from the tour 2021 just because of the pandemic, travel restrictions. Tough on a young family. He had young kids, and he wanted to step away. But this was his first event back because he won the local trials and made it all the way to the final in a very dramatic fashion. So the the Australian home crowd, which is absolutely losing it.
So
and
cool.
It's a great story. Yeah, everyone loves a comeback story. Yeah, so that was a real interesting one. And then the kind of umbrella thing over this, which was announced recently, is the WSL World Surf League just announced a massive competitive overhaul of the entire circuit, their entire season next year in 2026. It's going to look completely different. The way world titles is going to be completely different. No more Final Five, back to the cumulative points ranking. So it's kind of similar to what it was before 2021. And yeah, a lot of surf fans have strong feelings about that.
They're like, we can't give Felipe any more world titles. That's just too much.
Well, here's the thing. Felipe could, in theory, win a world title before Pipeline. Like, he could win a bunch of events.
Sure.
But it's designed that so the event comes down to Pipeline. Most likely it would.
What is the thinking behind that, and do you have any takes on the new format?
Yeah, I do have some takes, actually. As flawed as like the mid-year cut, where they trimmed about a third of the tour, men's and women's tour at halfway point, that was controversial when it came out a few years ago. And as is the Final Five, which they take the top 5 surfers at the end of the year and do a one-day surf-off kind of bracket style. The number 1 seed only has to win 2 out of 3 heats to win the world title on a given day. So is that the most fair way to decide a world title? Probably not. But from a entertainment perspective, it's incredibly compelling. The cut is compelling. The Final Five is compelling. The problem was a lot of people hated it because it was at lowers. I got nothing against lowers. It's just the gravitas was somewhat lacking at lowers on most of the swells there that they got. So I do think that the new way they're going to do it at Pipeline should be exciting. Like, that's going to be great. Could potentially entice John Florence to come back, which he hasn't committed one way or another. But like, how sick would that be to see John win a title pipe? That would just be amazing. I do feel, and I don't know all the details on this, but surfers who get cut now can, like the mid-year cut, they don't qualify, can re-qualify via the Challenger Series this year and then get back on tour at the start of the next season. But the way that the WSL is rolling out next season is the people in the latter half who are not doing well then have to wait a full year just to get the chance to requalify. So they essentially miss a full year if they don't do well enough. So I think that's kind of a bummer for them, obviously. I don't think, some surf fans may not feel that strongly about it. But it's funny, the Challenger Series, that kind of second tier, is often where a lot of really interesting, compelling stories come from, because there's not much money to be made on it. Surfers are probably losing money doing it. It's incredibly expensive to travel to these places and stay for a while and compete. But yeah, I think there's a lot of untapped human interest stories going on with the Challenger Series.
When is the new Surfer magazine coming out?
I believe it'll be on newsstands June 13th.
June 13th, 2025.
Mid-June. That's the plan.
And what is, can you talk about any of the features that people should be looking for? Yeah.
There is some stuff on Mikey February and the crew in South Africa. I think it's mainly Ellen Van Geysen and Will Bennix. My colleague Chris Dodds wrote about that. I haven't read it yet, but I've got a glimpse at it, and that's going to be cool. Like, they're doing really cool work down there with their media stuff. For me, the stuff that and there's going to be something about the rise of young women surfing right now, just taking the world by storm. Katie Simmers, your Aaron Brooks, your Molly Picklum. So that'll be a good highlight there. For me, like I said earlier, there's something about surfing longevity, how to surf into your 70s and 80s. Just like, it's not step by step, but it's more of like these people's their thought process, and just how, honestly, like Mark Richards is still stoked to get in the water. Bob McTavish is still stoked to get in the water, which I thought was really cool. Like, that's
super cool.
You can get jaded surfing sometimes, but like, I don't know, maybe with their age comes some wisdom and some context, and they just appreciate it all the more. So
For sure.
So that was cool to see. Like Jeff Hackman says he still surfs like overhead waves in France.
That's so cool.
It's great to hear. There's hope for us.
Yeah, it's one to be thinking about. You know, as soon as you hit your 30s, you start to think, well, how long am I going to be able to surf real waves, and what can I do to extend this?
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you see people who abuse their bodies versus people who actually just do a few things that can keep you having a lot more fun for a lot longer.
Yeah. Well, you're cross training. That'll help with that.
I think I'm going to do one ultra and then give my knees a break and never do it again. This is my 1 year of potentially messing up knees.
You
but
say that and you're going to get hooked.
I know. It is pretty fun. It is pretty fun.
Well, that actually brings up something you talk about, like the aging and surfing. Kind of relates in a way to the other feature I wrote about. It's about board design and board choice, and how, we've talked a lot about social media and the internet, like that. There's sort of an explosion of content of like alternate, what you quote unquote alternate boards, like non-thrusters.
Yeah,
your mid-lengths, twins, fishes, logs. Like it's always been there, but I think the internet and social media really it blew it up into the wider consciousness, and you just see a whole lot more of it. And now, partly I think because of the surfers who surf them so well, have spread the popularity of that.
So you guys write about that in the upcoming feature as well?
Yeah, I talked about that, and I kind of had a bit of an epiphany talking with Leah Dawson about this, and it actually got me excited for like surfing years.
I slept on Leah Dawson's couch for a whole season.
Did
North Shore once?
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, she's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, she was great, and really good surfer. So you probably know her quiver better than I do, but she talked about how with alternative boards, let's just call them that, like there's still a challenge in surfing them like at a high level and like in what you call solid waves, like to highline a longboard and hang on the nose, to do a big wrap on the mid length, to bottom turn a twin fin. No one can do it like my February, but we all want to try. Like that is hard to do. That takes a high level of skill, and I feel like part of the intrinsic joy of surfing is like solving the challenge of surfing. Like it is a hard thing to do, and we can't rip thrusters forever. So I think there's so much more to explore out there in terms of like board design as you get older. Like they may be theoretically easier to paddle around and pop up on, but like there's still a challenge to mastering those boards and doing those maneuvers. So it got me excited talking with her, and some other folks in that interview. People will know.
Try and hang 10.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It's really hard.
It's hard. Try and do that shit for a legit hang 10 is a black belt level surf maneuver.
Yeah,
the people who can do that are really impressive.
Yeah, it's funny too, because in that story I try to talk to people for different age groups. Like Devin Howard from Farallon Islands is a great longboarder, so he has a lot of like context and makes some really good points about this. But like Tosh Tudor is this really cool. He's taking a really cool hybrid approach, and Tosh, if people don't know, is the son of Joel Tudor, multi-time longboard champ, and Tosh, his son, is young. He's probably 20, 21. Great longboarder, can hang 10, can do the black belt stuff, but he's taking this really cool approach with his boards. They kind of look like what you'd see like kind of 80s style, longer, midpoint forward, pulled in tail. They're thrusters, but they do not look like the thrusters most 19 and 20-year-olds are riding. They're really different, and he's absolutely charging pipe on them. Like he's charging consequential heavy waves on them, on its equipment you would not think would work at first glance, but that's beauty surfing. Like you can always surprise yourself.
Well, I look forward to being surprised with the new Surfer magazine coming out. What's the date?
June 13th.
June 13th, you can go to your local grocery store or somewhere where they would be sold. Go get it the old school way.
Yeah.
Go to the store and go buy a mag. And
Surfer.com, too.
Surfer.com. Read everything by August Howell.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming on. Anywhere else people can find you, or is that where we're directing people?
Surfer Mag. Yeah.
Okay.
Hit us up.
August, this is so much fun.
In our DMs. All right. Thank you, man. Yeah, this is a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.